You're babysitting the dog. My parents said after I paid for their vacation to Hawaii, only to be left behind with their German Shepherd, so I canceled every payment and left them stranded in paradise. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Hey Reddit, I was supposed to go on a family vacation to Hawaii. At least, that's what I thought when I paid for most of it. Turns out they left a day early without telling me and stuck me with their dog instead. So I made sure they'd regret every second, froze their cards, canceled their reservations, and left them stranded in paradise with no way home. Buckle up, this one's gold. I, 31 male, work as a network security engineer making $140,000 plus performance bonuses. For as long as I can remember, my family has treated me like I'm invisible, unless they need something, usually money. From day one, my younger brother Eric, 29 male, and older sister Rachel, 34 female, were the golden children. I wasn't just the middle child. I was the forgotten one. And not in some subtle way that takes therapy to unpack. This shit was blatant and consistent for decades. Growing up in suburban Ohio, my dad worked as a sales manager, and my mom was an elementary school administrator. They weren't poor, but they acted like money was tight whenever I needed something. For my siblings, the wallet magically opened like some kind of financial Narnia that only existed for them. For my 16th birthday, I got a used bicycle from my uncle. That same year, my parents bought Eric a used Jeep because a young man needs his independence. Apparently, that rule only applied to one of their sons. Rachel got her entire college tuition paid for at a private university. I had to take out loans and work 2 jobs to get through state school, sometimes pulling 30-hour weekends between my campus IT job and a warehouse gig that left my back feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My high school graduation coincided with my niece's dance recital. 3 guesses which event the family attended. When I graduated with honors and a partial scholarship to a good engineering program, my dad barely looked up from his phone. My mom's actual words, "Well, I guess that saves us some money." When Eric barely graduated with a 2.0, 4 GPA, they rented out a restaurant and invited extended family from 3 states. I tried everything to win their approval. Perfect grades, varsity wrestling, made it to state finals twice, volunteer work, staying out of trouble. Nothing worked. I'd come home with straight A's, and my dad would just grunt while my mom would say something like, "That's what we expect from you." Eric would bring home a C-, and they'd take him out for ice cream to celebrate his improvement. Eventually, I just focused on building my own life, worked through college doing IT support jobs, landed a good entry position at a cybersecurity firm, and moved up quickly. By 28, I was making 6 figures, had minimal debt, and bought myself a decent townhouse. I also picked up a 2018 Ford F-150 that I customized myself, one of the few things I genuinely enjoy outside of work. Added a lift kit, customized the suspension, reinforced the undercarriage, upgraded to all-terrain tires, and installed a premium sound system. That truck became my sanctuary. 3 years ago, I created what I stupidly called a family emergency fund, a separate account with about $25,000 that I designated for genuine family emergencies. I added my parents as authorized users, just in case. Yeah, I know. Financial suicide. My financial advisor, Bill, this straight-shooting former Marine who manages my retirement accounts, actually laughed in my face when I told him what I'd done. "You're giving access to people who've proven they don't respect your boundaries or financial independence?" Bill had said, shaking his head. "We need to talk about the psychology behind this decision, because financially it's about as smart as setting cash on fire." I didn't listen. Some part of me was still trying to buy my family's approval, even if I wouldn't admit it to myself. Around 29, the requests started coming in regularly. First from Eric, needing $950 for rent because he'd had unexpected expenses, which I later found out meant he'd blown his money on gaming equipment and sports betting. He'd gotten into fantasy football in a serious way, except he wasn't any good at it. Then Rachel needed $1,800 for emergency childcare costs that mysteriously aligned with her posting Instagram photos of her new kitchen remodel, complete with marble countertops that cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. She didn't even try to hide it, just assumed I wouldn't connect the dots or call her out. She was right. My parents needed help with property taxes, $5,200, roof repairs, $4,300, and medical bills, $3,900, that strangely lined up with their 35th anniversary European cruise. My mom actually video called me from a cafe in Barcelona to ask for another $1,500 because they underestimated the cost of souvenirs. Before I realized what was happening, I had become their personal ATM, draining thousands every month. Eric kept quitting decent-paying sales jobs because the managers were toxic or didn't recognize his potential. Code for, they expected me to show up before noon. Once he walked out of a $72,000 business development job after a week because his boss asked him to help with a client presentation over the weekend. He told me later, I'm not sacrificing my personal time for some corporation. Meanwhile, I was pulling 60-hour weeks to climb the ladder at my company. Rachel maintained her lifestyle of luxury spa days and designer clothes, despite working part-time as an event coordinator, making half what I did. She'd post photos of her $500 hair treatments and $400 dinners, then text me the next day about how she couldn't afford her daughter's school supplies. She once had the audacity to tell me, "You don't understand how expensive children are," while her Instagram showed her getting a designer purse that cost more than my car payment. My parents' retirement savings were pitiful because they kept making withdrawals for essential home upgrades that somehow always included new luxury appliances, weekend trips to casinos, or the latest smartphones for themselves. They'd lecture me about being prepared for the future while systematically destroying their own. After 2 years, I'd given them over $58,000. I started documenting everything in a detailed spreadsheet. Not a single dollar was ever repaid. I categorized every transaction, including the reason they gave me, and what I later discovered the money was actually used for. The contrast was both sickening and revealing. My best friend Jensen, who works in corporate finance, kept calling me out. We'd been friends since college, and he was the only person who knew the full extent of my family's financial vampirism. You realize you're enabling these parasites, right? He'd say over steaks at our regular Thursday night meetup. They're treating you like their personal bank, and you're letting them. They're family, I'd reply weakly. No, they're financial vampires, he'd counter. There's a difference between supporting family and being exploited by people who happen to share your DNA. They're banking on your weakness, that you still want their approval even though they've never given it. I ignored him, thinking that maybe if I just proved how reliable I was, they'd finally accept me. For a while, it seemed to work. They started including me in family events, usually the ones where someone needed to pay the check at the end. My mother would occasionally call to check in, inevitably the day before some unexpected situation required my financial assistance. I was so desperate for their approval that I couldn't see the pattern, or maybe I just didn't want to. Last November, my parents planned a big family trip to Hawaii. Everyone was invited. My parents, Eric and his girlfriend of the month, Rachel and her husband, and their 2 kids. I was actually included from the beginning, which should have been my first red flag. They never included me from the start of anything unless they needed something from me. The trip wasn't cheap, 10 days at a luxury resort in Maui with all the amenities. My parents invited me over for what they called a family planning meeting about the trip finances. We're a bit short on covering everything, my dad said casually, which I'd come to recognize as code for, we can't afford any of this. Like the trained dog I was, I stepped up. I covered nearly $15,000, paid for my parents' accommodations, upgraded everyone to ocean view suites, prepaid most activities, added 2 rental SUVs, and even booked a surprise sunset dinner cruise for everyone. I thought maybe, just maybe, a grand gesture would finally make them treat me like actual family rather than an open wallet. The day before departure, we had a final details meeting at my parents' house. Everyone seemed distracted, constantly checking phones and avoiding eye contact. I chalked it up to pre-travel nerves. We agreed to meet at 6:30 a.m. at my parents' house to carpool to the airport. I woke up at 4:30, double-checked my luggage, and drove over, actually feeling excited for once. I'd taken 10 days of PTO for this, my first real vacation in 3 years. I'd even bought new swim trunks and sandals the week before, something I rarely did for myself. When I pulled up at 6:15, something felt wrong. No cars in the driveway, no lights on inside, complete silence. I knocked repeatedly, checked my phone for messages. Nothing. Called everyone. Straight to voicemail. Finally, my phone rang. Rachel. Oh, Alex. I was wondering when you'd notice. Notice what? Where is everyone? You didn't get Dad's email? We left yesterday. We decided since you're so good with responsibility, you wouldn't mind staying behind to watch the house and take care of Bandit. Bandit. Their German Shepherd. The one my dad constantly complained about but somehow couldn't part with. They'd left me behind to dog sit while they enjoyed the vacation I paid for. You can't be serious, I managed to say through clenched teeth. Don't be so sensitive. We'll bring you back one of those tacky shirts. Anyway, gotta go. We're about to start our helicopter tour. The one you booked for us. Click. I stood there stunned. There was no email. I checked anyway. Nothing. Not in spam, not in trash, nowhere. I used my key to let myself in. I'd been taking care of their house and dog for years whenever they traveled. Bandit came running up, tail wagging, the only honest member of the family. He was genuinely happy to see me, which only highlighted how little everyone else cared. I sat at their kitchen table and checked my banking app. That's when I saw it. My family emergency fund had been completely drained 3 days earlier. $22,800 gone. The withdrawals showed charges to Hawaiian Airlines, luxury hotel bookings, restaurant reservations in Maui, and even spa packages. They hadn't just left me behind. They'd emptied my account to pay for extra luxuries on their trip. There were charges for first-class seat upgrades, extensive spa treatments, and a deep-sea fishing charter that my dad had always talked about. What really twisted the knife was finding their printed boarding passes in the recycling bin, dated for the previous day, proving they'd planned this well in advance. Looking at the detailed itinerary on the kitchen counter, I realized they'd actually extended their trip by 4 days beyond what we'd originally discussed. Using my money, of course. The refrigerator contained nothing but a 6-pack of some cheap drink, the kind I despised but my dad knew I'd drink if desperate, and a note on the counter that simply read, "Dog food in garage, back on the 24th. Not even a thank you. I immediately called Jensen. They went to Hawaii without me and drained my emergency account to fund it. Holy shit, he said. And you're surprised because... I'm not, I admitted. Just beyond pissed. Please tell me you're finally done with these people. Beyond done. So what are you going to do about it? I could hear the anticipation in his voice. That's when it hit me. The account they'd emptied. I was still the primary holder. The cards they were using were still linked to my name. I had complete control with a few clicks. My network security background was about to pay off in a way they never expected. I'm going to strand them in paradise and let reality hit them like a freight train. This wasn't just anger. This was calculated justice. I logged into my accounts and systematically froze every card connected to that emergency fund. Then I called my bank's fraud department and reported unauthorized transactions. The representative sounded skeptical until I explained the timeline. So you're saying they told you they needed help with a family vacation? You agreed to contribute? Then they left without you and drained your account without permission? She confirmed. Exactly. They left me behind to watch their dog while they're spending my money in Hawaii. And when was the last authorized transaction you made on this account before these Hawaii charges? Over 8 months ago. It was an emergency fund, for actual emergencies. Within 30 minutes, every card they had access to was completely locked down. But I wasn't done. My IT security training meant I knew exactly how to escalate this digital revenge to its maximum potential. I spent the next hour setting up an elaborate series of financial tripwires, locking online account access, removing their authorized user status, setting up real-time fraud alerts on all transactions, and implementing two-factor authentication that would only go to my phone, ensuring they couldn't access a single penny more. Then I called the resort directly. "Hi, I'm calling about a reservation under the name Mitchell," I said, using my dad's last name. "I believe there's been a mistake with the payment method." "Let me check that for you, sir," the cheerful receptionist said. "Yes, we have the Mitchell party in 3 Ocean View suites for 10 nights. "That's right. Here's the situation. Those accommodations were fraudulently charged to my account. I've already reported this to my bank, but I wanted to let you know directly that any additional charges they attempt to make are unauthorized." "I see," she said, her tone changing. "Would you like us to cancel the reservation?" "No, that won't be necessary," I replied. "Let them stay for now, but please flag the rooms as cash only for any additional charges. Minibar, room service, everything. And please make sure they're informed of this change immediately." "Of course, sir. We take fraud very seriously. I'll update this in our system right away. Would you like me to have the manager contact you for further details?" "Actually, that would be helpful," I said. "I want to make sure everything is properly documented." 20 minutes later, I got a call from Thomas, the resort's head of security and a former military MP. When I explained the situation, he didn't just understand. He seemed personally offended on my behalf. "This is beyond a simple payment dispute, Mr. Mitchell. This sounds like intentional fraud committed by your family members. What did they book beyond the rooms? Let's see. There are spa appointments, private cabana rentals, scuba lessons, a chartered fishing trip, and several premium dining reservations. Cancel everything that hasn't already happened, and make sure they know exactly why." "With pleasure, sir." Next, I called the rental car company and explained the situation. They were even more helpful, agreeing to remotely disable the vehicles after the current rental period ended in 3 days. Halfway through my family's extended trip, the fleet manager actually chuckled when I explained what happened. So they left you behind to watch the dog while they lived it up on your dime? Man, that's cold. Don't worry. I've got 3 teenage daughters who try to manipulate me constantly. I know exactly how to handle this. Then I called my credit card companies and reported my cards as stolen, ensuring new ones would be issued with different numbers. I moved my remaining funds to a new account at a different bank, making sure to use a bank my family had no relationship with. Finally, I contacted the airline and explained that I needed to cancel the return flights that had been fraudulently booked. The representative was sympathetic, especially after I explained the situation. With everything in place, I took Bandit for a long walk around the neighborhood. When I returned, my phone was already blowing up. I had 14 missed calls and 22 text messages. I decided to read a few. Dad, what the hell is going on with the cards? They're all getting declined. Mom, Alex, the hotel just told us we have to pay cash for everything. What did you do? Rachel, this isn't funny, Alex. Mom and Dad are freaking out. Fix this now. I silenced my phone and texted Jensen. It's done. Want to come over and watch the fireworks? 20 minutes later, he arrived with drinks and takeout from our favorite barbecue place. So, have they realized how screwed they are yet? He asked, handing me a drink. I showed him my phone. The missed calls had doubled, and the text messages were getting increasingly desperate. They made us pay $350 cash for dinner. Your father is having heart palpitations. Mom, the hotel says we need to provide a new payment method by tomorrow or vacate. What the actual F, Alex? Eric, my kids are crying because we had to cancel their dolphin experience. How could you do this to innocent children? Rachel Jensen read through them, each message making him laugh harder than the last. Oh man, this is the best entertainment I've had in months, he said, opening another drink. What's your favorite so far? We spent the evening going through their increasingly frantic messages while enjoying our food. Bandit happily munched on brisket scraps, probably the best meal he'd had in years. By midnight, the tone of the messages had shifted from angry to desperate. Mom, please, Alex. We've had to move to a cheaper hotel and it's horrible. There are bugs. Eric, I had to sell my Rolex to a pawn shop to pay for food. It was a collector's edition. It was a fake I knew he'd bought in Chinatown. Dad, we're struggling to find flights home that we can afford. Is this really how you want to treat your family? I finally decided to respond with a single text to their group chat. Weird how that feels, isn't it? Being abandoned and taken advantage of by family? Enjoy your vacation. I'm sure you can figure it out, just like I had to figure out why I was left behind to dog sit while you stole my money. P.S. Bandit says hi. Then I blocked their numbers. 3 days after freezing the cards, I needed to clear my head. I grabbed Bandit's leash, called Jensen, and headed out to my truck. My F-150 wasn't fancy by most standards, but it represented freedom to me. I'd upgraded the suspension, added some off-road capabilities, and personalized the interior. It was the one possession I'd never let my family touch, no matter how much they begged to borrow it. Any updates from the family vacation from hell? Jensen asked as we hit the highway, windows down, Bandit's head hanging out the back window. I handed him my laptop. Check my email. The resort sent me an update this morning. Jensen opened it and started reading. Holy shit. Dear Mr. Mitchell, as requested, we're providing an update on the situation. The Mitchell party was required to vacate their Ocean View suites as they were unable to provide alternative payment. As a courtesy, we offered them our staff dormitory rooms at a reduced cash rate, which they accepted. They have asked repeatedly to contact you, but as instructed, we've explained that we cannot facilitate communication with the original payment card holder in potential fraud cases. Keep reading, I said, unable to suppress my grin. Additionally, they attempted to charge several spa services and excursions to the room before we implemented the cash-only policy, totaling $3,280. As per your instructions, these charges were declined and the services were canceled. Their reaction was noteworthy, requiring security intervention. We've added them to our watch list for the remainder of their stay. Damn, Alex. This is cold-blooded revenge at its finest. We drove up to the mountains, taking the winding back roads that showcase the truck's handling. Bandit was loving every minute, tail thumping happily against the seat. We stopped at a scenic overlook and broke out some sandwiches from the cooler. My email pinged again. Jensen grabbed my laptop before I could and read the new update. They just disabled your family's rental cars. Man, this shit just keeps getting better. My phone vibrated with a text from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it to find a message from Thomas, the resort security chief, who had apparently taken a personal interest in my family's comeuppance. Mr. Mitchell, thought you might appreciate knowing your father tried to convince our staff he was a close personal friend of the hotel owner to get special treatment. When that failed, he demanded to speak to my superior. I informed him I report directly to the regional director, who is currently on vacation in Bali. I showed Jensen the message, and he nearly spit out his drink laughing. Dude, you've made an ally for life there, he said. Send that guy a gift basket or something. We finished our lunch in comfortable silence, watching hawks circle overhead. Bandit had found a stick and was contentedly chewing it to pieces. Want to hear something pathetic? I asked finally. I've given them over $58,000 in the past 2 years. I could have bought a cabin up here with that money. Jensen shook his head. Not pathetic on your part. Pathetic that they took advantage of you for so long. But that stops now. As we started heading back down the mountain, I received an email from my financial advisor, Bill. He'd noticed the unusual activity on my accounts and wanted to check in. I hadn't told him about the Hawaii situation yet. I pulled over and called him. Alex, is everything okay? There's been some serious movement in your accounts, Bill said, his usual no-nonsense tone tinged with concern. I explained the situation, including the Hawaii betrayal and my digital revenge. There was a long pause before Bill responded. Family financial abuse is more common than people think, and it's particularly vicious because it uses emotional manipulation as leverage. Second, I want you to know that what you've done is completely justified from both a financial and personal perspective. You're not just protecting your money, you're breaking a cycle of exploitation. That's exactly how it feels. So what's your plan going forward? Because they're going to try to worm their way back in when they get home. People like this don't just accept defeat. I'm done with them. Completely. I've already moved my money to new accounts they have no access to. Good start. But let's take this further and make sure they can't touch your finances again, even indirectly. I want you to come in tomorrow. We're going to set up a complete financial firewall. New accounts, new investment structures, possibly even a trust with explicit exclusions for family members. Bill wasn't just a financial advisor. He was a financial fortress builder. When I mentioned that my parents knew my social security number and other personal details, he immediately outlined a comprehensive identity protection plan. The next day, I met with Bill to implement our financial protection plan. As we finished, Kira, the firm's forensic accountant, stopped by. She recognized my case from Bill's morning briefing and offered to help recover my money. For the next hour, Kira analyzed my records with surgical precision, identifying patterns I'd missed, like how my family timed their requests to match my quarterly bonuses. Over the next 3 weeks, we built the accountability package, tracking receipts, matching withdrawal timestamps to their false claims, and creating an ironclad timeline of exploitation. During this time, Kira and I developed a friendship. Her clarity about my family's behavior was exactly what I needed. By the time my family returned, I was prepared for the confrontation. They managed to find their way back eventually. Rachel's husband had to wire money from their home equity line of credit to cover emergency flights, budget hotel rooms, and transportation. When they showed up at my townhouse a week later, they looked like they'd been through a war zone, sunburned, exhausted, and absolutely livid. I let them in without a word. They stood awkwardly in my living room, my mom already turning on the waterworks in that manipulative way she'd perfected over decades. You ruined everything, my dad started, face flushed with rage. Ruined what exactly? The vacation you stole from me? The $22,800 you took without permission? Or the lifelong relationship where I give and you take? It wasn't stealing, my mom protested. We're family. We share things. Share. When have you ever shared anything with me? We had to stay in rooms where the staff lives, with cockroaches, Eric complained. Sounds like an upgrade from the personality you've been living with. We would have paid you back, my dad claimed. Like you paid back the other $58,000? I have receipts for every dollar, every lie you told. Want to see the spreadsheet? I dropped the accountability package on the coffee table with a heavy thud and handed him the formal letter requesting $81,453. You can't be serious, Rachel sputtered. We don't have that kind of money. Strange how that works, isn't it? Taking money you don't have and can't repay? We're your family, my dad shouted. No, you're financial predators who happen to share my DNA. Real family doesn't do what you did. But where will we go? My mom asked dramatically. The same place you went before you remembered you had a middle child with a good job. We took care of you your entire life, my dad shouted. We gave you everything. Name one thing you gave me that you didn't give Eric or Rachel more of. One birthday you didn't forget. One achievement you celebrated. The silence was deafening. Get out. All of you, consider this relationship terminated. I closed the door behind them, then texted Kira. It's done. Family confronted. Repayment demanded. How do you feel? Like I should have done this years ago. It's been 8 months since I cut them off. The first few weeks felt strange. Not because I missed them, but because I had to adjust to having thousands of extra dollars in my account each month. Turns out when you're not bankrolling 4 adults with expensive tastes, your financial situation improves dramatically. The calls and texts didn't stop immediately. They cycled through all the classic manipulation tactics. First came guilt. After everything we've sacrificed for you. Then anger. You ungrateful piece of shit, we gave you life. Then fake emergencies. Dad's in the hospital. We need $4,000 for treatment. He wasn't. I called the hospital directly to verify. I blocked their numbers after the second week. They started showing up unannounced at my place, so I moved to a gated community. Didn't tell them where. Started fresh. 2 months after the confrontation, I received a letter from a debt settlement company representing my parents. They were offering to settle the $81,453 debt for $12,000, citing financial hardship. I forwarded it to Kira, who laughed and drafted a response rejecting their insulting offer and reiterating the full amount due. She called me after sending it. They're testing your resolve. Stay firm. If they can offer $12,000, they can find more. 3 weeks later, they countered with $25,000. Again, we declined. Bill, my financial advisor, had another suggestion. Let's offer them a structured payment plan, $1,000 a month until it's paid off. That gives them a path forward while maintaining your position. I agreed, and we sent the counteroffer. To my surprise, they accepted within days. My dad signed a formal repayment agreement that Kira drafted, including penalties for missed payments. They're taking you seriously now, she said. That's progress. I heard through mutual connections that reality hit them hard. My parents had to downsize their house. Apparently, the mortgage had been behind for months, and I'd been unknowingly keeping them from foreclosure. Eric actually had to get a steady warehouse job, a far cry from the executive position he always claimed he deserved. Rachel had to pull her kids from private school, cancel her country club membership, and started selling health supplements on social media. Not my problem anymore. Every month since then, a $1,000 payment has appeared in my account like clockwork. I don't use the money. Instead, I invest it in a separate fund that I'm earmarking for something special down the road. It's not about the money anymore. It's about the principle and watching them finally face consequences. As for me, I bought a house. Nothing extravagant, just a 4-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood with a large yard and privacy fence. Used the down payment I'd been saving for years, plus what I accumulated in just 6 months of not being the family bank. My mortgage is less than what I used to give them monthly. I adopted Bandit permanently. My parents couldn't afford him anymore, and got him a companion, a resilient 3-legged shepherd mix named Rex from the shelter who couldn't care less about my financial status. I've been promoted at work. Turns out when you're not constantly handling family emergencies and stress, your performance improves. Got a 20% raise and more responsibilities managing our major client cybersecurity protocols. Jensen comes over most weekends for grilling and watching games. He still gives me shit about how long it took me to stand up for myself, but it's well-deserved. That's what real friends do. They call you on your bullshit. The most unexpected development has been my relationship with Kira. What started as professional collaboration evolved into friendship, and eventually into something more. Unlike my family, she values independence and reciprocity. We've been dating for 5 months now, and it's the healthiest relationship I've ever experienced. Last week, I received a text from an unknown number. It was from Thomas, the resort security chief from Hawaii, who'd apparently kept my contact information. Mr. Mitchell, thought you'd like to know your family tried to book here again for Christmas. Our reservation system has a flag on their names now. I personally had the pleasure of declining their booking and explaining exactly why. Your father claimed to have resolved all issues with you. Just checking if that's true before I permanently blacklist them. I replied, not resolved. They're making payments on less than a third of what they owe. Feel free to maintain that blacklist. His response came quickly. With pleasure. By the way, if you ever want to visit Maui properly, let me know. I'll make sure you get the VIP treatment you paid for, but never received. 6 months after cutting them off, my dad showed up at my office building. I was walking to my car after work when I spotted him leaning against my F-150. He looked older, more worn down. The designer watch was gone, replaced by something more modest. His normally expensive haircut had given way to something that suggested a chain salon. Alex, he said, straightening up, we need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. You're making your payments. That's our only relationship now. I'm your father, for God's sake. You're a man who shares some DNA with me and owes me money. That's it. He ran his hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd seen countless times growing up, usually when he was about to ask for something. Look, I know we made mistakes, but this has gone on long enough. Your mother cries every night. Rachel's kids ask about their uncle. Eric, let me guess. Eric needs something? He had the decency to look embarrassed. He's struggling. We all are. The payments are killing us. We had to sell the lake house. The lake house you bought with my money? Seems appropriate. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? I unlocked my truck. Fair would be you paying back every cent with interest. Fair would be acknowledging how you treated me my entire life. Fair would be a genuine apology that doesn't include asking for something. I am sorry, Alex. We all are. No, you're sorry you got caught. You're sorry your ATM card stopped working. That's not true, isn't it? If I agreed right now to cancel the debt and start giving you money again, would you still be sorry? His silence told me everything I needed to know. That's what I thought. Keep making the payments, Dad. It's teaching you something valuable. As I got into my truck, he called out, "There's a family dinner on Sunday. Your mom's birthday. We'd like you to come." I paused, hand on the door. For a brief moment, the little boy inside me who always wanted his parents' approval stirred. Then I remembered everything. Every forgotten birthday. Every dismissal. The abandoned Hawaii trip. I have plans with my real family on Sunday. People who actually care about me. We care about you, Alex. No, you care about what I can do for you. There's a difference. I drove away, watching him shrink in my rearview mirror. When I got home, Kira was waiting with Rex and Bandit. One look at my face told her everything. Your dad found you? Yep. Wanted to talk about reducing the payments. Invited me to Mom's birthday dinner. Are you going? Number, I'm taking you to that new steakhouse downtown instead. Bill and Jensen are coming too. Much better company. She smiled. That's my guy. Was I wrong for cutting them off? For leaving them stranded in Hawaii? Maybe some people would think so. But those people never had to be the family's safety net for years only to be left behind while their money funded someone else's vacation. My only regret is waiting so long to stand up for myself. Every month when that $1,000 payment hits my account, it's not about the money anymore. It's a reminder that I finally valued myself enough to demand better treatment. That's something I'll never compromise on again.